Thank you very much for everybody who has joined in, and we'd like to thank everybody who has viewed the previous episode, the very first one. The numbers we saw there are very encouraging, and we would like to keep doing it more and more, because this is about engagements, mostly of young people, about issues that affect them directly. And this is more conversational. This is not your traditional news platform. It's about us, engaging from peer to peer. So let's keep it going, man. This is the current review. I am with Lebona Lekoena. Today we'll be joined by a number of very important guests on the show. And anybody else can also participate by submitting their comments in the comment section of if you're watching it on Facebook, you can submit comments on the comment section there. If you're watching on YouTube, you can also submit your comments there, and if we see them, we'll definitely respond, or have a follow-up chat around what you have got to say. Lebona?
Good morning, my brother, and good morning to our viewers. Like you said, today we are having a special guest whereby we are going to discuss various issues that are affecting young people in the province, in particular the high unemployment rate that we are currently facing in the Free State province, because we've noticed that previously the province has been grappling with a persistently high unemployment rate, and the province as a result has faced significant challenges creating sufficient employment opportunities for its residents. So today we are going to discuss that, and how, as the progressive young people, their views, actually we're going to have their views, and they're going to tell us how do they think Free State as a province can defeat its high unemployment rate that is currently facing.
Certainly, and just getting it from the context, we have I think in the regions of the 40s, up to 46% unemployment rate, only for young people. That for me sort of spells a catastrophe. And perhaps maybe an opportunity to resolve the situation before it spoils into a catastrophe, because as soon as you realize that there is a ticking time bomb, you have an opportunity to correct before it explodes. So perhaps what we will do now is to engage on what we think are the causes, for this high unemployment rate. In our midst, we have Phiwe, Mathe. We've also got Karabo, Khakhau. Khakhau. My apologies for the butchering your surname like that, Honorable. And we would just like to hear your views, and not because this is not necessarily an electioneering platform, because we understand that you both come from different political parties, the ANC as well as the DA, and this is not necessarily an electioneering platform where you are going to be canvassing for votes for your political party in the next national and provincial elections, but just to hear your original perspectives around what are the causes of unemployment and how we can tackle them. Maybe before we go ahead, we can just have you greeting our viewers. Karabo?
Dumela ntate, ke dumedise wena le everybody that's viewing at home. I hope you butchering my surname is an indication of the kind of butchering we'll be doing to the employment stats once we're in government as the DA. It's difficult to have a conversation around how to tackle unemployment without discussing how we are the tangible solution to that. But yes, my name is Karabo Khakhau Thamsanqa, and yes, so hi to you, hi to everybody that's viewing, and I look forward to our discussion.
Phiwe?
No, thanks, Pratami. Let me also greet the hosts, yourself and Lebona, as well as our viewers at home, and the Honorable Khakhau, who also happens to be my home girl, come from the same hometown. I trust that she's well and Cape Town is treating her well. And thank you for the conversation. I mean, I followed the last discussion that you had. It was quite interesting, and look forward to contributing to more of your work as well.
Thank you. And it sounds like, Karabo, I'm not going to be using the prefix a lot, aus Karabo le put Phiwe, you'll forgive us because we are peers now at this level. It sounds like you're quite ready to correct a lot of, misconceptions we have, beginning with your surname, Khakhau. My apologies. I got it absolutely incorrectly, Khakhau and Khakhau Tu. I apologize 100 times and more. So please give us what you think are the official statistics for unemployment in the Free State.
Should I start? Are you bringing that to me?
You, yes.
Yeah, okay. So number one, communication around this has been pretty foggy on where we stand. Even the provincial treasury itself seems to be trying to hide the truth around how many people actually in the Free State are unemployed. But the communication that is available right now is as such. One, between Q1 and Q2 of 2023, the Free State lost 59,000 jobs. And this is in comparison to the Western Cape having gained 54,000 jobs. So I'm going somewhere with this. In the last quarter of 2022, there were 169,000 jobs that were created in the whole of South Africa. But even with that creation, the Free State lost 3,000 jobs. So the whole of South Africa was able to create only 1,069,000 jobs in the last quarter of 2022, while the Free State decreased the number of people that are able to put food on the table by 3,000 human beings altogether, all while the rest of the jobs that were created in South Africa were 1,669,000 of them were created in the Western Cape. So that's where we stand right now with what we know about the Free State. And you mentioned earlier on that this is a catastrophe, given that we are just close to 50% of youth unemployment in the Free State. And this is alarming because majority of the Free State population is young. The Free State population is a youthful population. So it cannot be that with such a youthful population, such a youthful population, we find ourselves resting with the percentages of unemployment that we have in the province. This signals that more people are unable to put food on the table, more people are battling to survive. And this is a problem. So we can go deeper into the reasons behind why this is the case. And the reasons why we find ourselves in where we are is because number one, it is no secret that there is no way there could be any employment or jobs that could be created within an economy or within an environment that does not foster job creation. One, it is not the job of government to create jobs. The government's responsibility is to foster an environment that is healthy enough or conducive enough for job employment. So when municipalities are governed terribly, when the basic services are not there, where there's no water, where there's no electricity, where there are potholes everywhere, where networks of service delivery within a municipality are a problem, it's obviously going to be difficult for any business to invest. So for example, mohlala toropo tse pedi, toropo e le nngwe, toropo tse 9 ka hara masepala o le mong wa Kopanong. All 9 of those towns ka hara toropo wa Kopanong are battling with water provision, and this has been a case for years. So you can never on any day have 24/7 with water ka hara masepala. So without water, businesses can't exist altogether. So any business that would want to invest in a rural economy ka hara toropo tse 9, including Yagasfontein, can't do so because of the lack of water supply. And this is also seen to be true ka hara Velkome as well, because le Phiwe wa tseba hae hore metsi a tima ka nako enngwe, metsi a teng, metsi ha ayo. So these are basic things that deter businesses from choosing to invest in building businesses in a particular area. So the first thing,
before you go in so deep, you're quite very passionate, definitely, and I think we just wanted those introductory remarks, and definitely there's a lot to talk about. Phiwe, we've noted what Karabo is saying. I just want you to maybe touch on what you think are the sectors which are suffering definitely with the ability to can be able to create jobs or are shedding jobs. Which sectors of the economy do you think are most affected? Because I do not want us to get to a point where we're discussing necessarily just the failure of government to create jobs, but what other role stakeholders can play a role in alleviating this upcoming catastrophe we're talking about.
Yeah, thank you very much, Pratami. Look, firstly, I just want to make the point that in the case of, the question of unemployment, it's quite broad when you look at the economy as a whole. When we look at a province such as the Free State, we know that there's quite a number of sectors that drive employment in the province. The key sector number one would be that of agriculture, which remains the mainstay of the provincial economy of the Free State. The agriculture previously used to contribute to about 3.8% of the provincial economy and also accounted for about 19% of all employment opportunities. Previously, we've seen that it has been on a decline due to quite a number of factors, owing to climatic changes, owing to the cyclical nature of the sector itself. Because as you know that in the agricultural sector, people do not get permanent jobs. The jobs are mainly seasonal. So you'd find that in the first quarter and the second quarter, which would be normally the warmer seasons when there's farming activities, there's employment. And when we go into the last two quarters, there's obviously a decline to the cyclical nature of the sector on its own. But notably, this sector is quite strong and it's quite widespread. I mean, municipalities such as the Mangaung Metro, Yonala in the Northern Free State, and the other municipalities are the ones that normally add because of the high gross of agricultural produce and even in terms of the size that is going there. But let's zoom in closer to another sector that's very critical, and that is that of mining. We all know that the province is quite endowed with a lot of mineral resources, with the exception of Velkom, which is our hometown from Honorable Khakhau and I. There's also other, mineral endowments that are found, like diamonds in the Mutaka area. And we know that this sector has also historically contributed quite significantly to the provincial economy of the province. And employment in that sector has also been consistently there. I mean, just around about before pre-COVID stages, this sector employed over 30,000 people. But there was a decline in this because of other factors such as mining operations that are closing down due to the nature of the mining in South Africa, which is deep level mining, that causes a lot of risks for business owners due to the safety measures that need to be implemented. So we need to also explore new ways on how we can be able to mine conducively, sustainably, and in a very safe manner. The third sector, I think, which is manufacturing. We all know that in the northern part of the Free State, we all have a very strong petrochemical sector dominated by Sasol. That has also contributed quite a lot in terms of job growth as well. We've also seen decline in this sector due to quite a number of factors as well. Some of these companies deciding to downscale and close down. There's also been labor unrest, but also to partially agree to some extent with Honorable Khakhau, there's also the issue of the provision of the necessary infrastructure like bulk water services, the maintenance of road and so forth. So it's quite a combination of factors, both objective and subjective, that have led to what we are seeing now. But I think that other sectors that are quite promising, that are also consistent. And unfortunately, we cannot overlook the impact of COVID-19 pandemic, because we know that the tourism sector, which is one sector that has been quite resilient in terms of growth. I mean, we know that the tourism sector, even when other sectors are registering decline, there's always growth in that sector, even if it's at 1%. And there's quite a sizable number of people that get employed there. And that is a space where we find a lot of young people participating, because we've got the hospitality sector. We've also got restaurants here. You would know that we've got a University of Technology that prides itself in the course of hospitality management, which is the Central University of Technology, and also the TVET College as well, which is quite a key, benchmark course in which they're offering, that also has opportunities for young people beyond even the Free State and beyond even South Africa into international sectors, as you would know. So, as a result of quite a number of factors, despite what we all can see, in relation to the provision of infrastructure and bulk water supply and so forth. There's also the nature of all of these sectors that get affected. Now, what is in the main very key in this regard for us to be able to look at how do we sustain employment in these kinds of sectors? How do we ensure that in the agricultural sector that we try to build some resilience when it comes to the cyclical nature of that particular sector? How do we ensure that we increase the participation of much more smaller business in the tourism sector? And how do we also improve in terms of our ability to host events that would attract tourists where, the hospitality industry would also be able to benefit? And how do we position the Free State, given its tourism potential? Because, we've got various tourism sites here in the province. The Karabo Dam has been recorded as one of the areas that have been visited the most in the previous financial year. How do we leverage on that from our own advertising and also the upkeep of those facilities as well in order for us to build much more sustainable, growth and also guaranteeing the jobs? The last one that I want to touch on is that of infrastructure. Now, we know that infrastructure is quite a key enabler of growth. It is also an enabler of investment, because if there's no infrastructure, you're not likely to find people that would want to come and invest. For example, now, if you are unable to come up with projects, infrastructure projects, not only in terms of in the built environment, but also in relation to water, to transport and telecommunications, which is an area where I would like to differ with Honorable Khakhau when she tried to limit the role of the state only to being an enabler of economic conditions for investment. But government also has a key role in driving development by also building infrastructure as well, and the maintenance thereof as well. So our government really has tried to, venture into that space. If you look at the amount that's spent on infrastructure. But the question then would be, what kind of infrastructure are we looking at? There's various types of infrastructure. There's your social infrastructure that is there for the communities, but there's also, infrastructure that is of commercial use that makes our local economies viable. For instance, like road infrastructure. If we want to attract investors, roads are quite critical in that regard, because people have to travel, goods have to move on these roads to and fro from their destination points to delivery points, and also for supply for the supply chain delivery purposes. So
I hear you, and I hear all of that, but the unemployment issue is quite an urgent. It's quite an urgent issue that needs to be dealt with almost immediately. And
Indeed.
Some of the things that you are talking about seem to be while very important, but they've got a long-term perspective. It's not things that you can with immediate effect say that you are going to be able to employ 100 young people who are currently standing in the corners, in the street corners. Driving to where I am today this morning, I passed so many young people who are just chilling, or just hanging. Maybe chilling is a different word. Just hanging for hope in the street corners. These people need intervention immediately. What sort of measures, like what opportunities do you think are there or that exist in the Free State as a province, whether they're brought about by the private sector or the government? What immediate opportunities can young people grab, or that they can create for themselves while being assisted by the government and the private sector? And this question goes to to both of you.
All right, thanks. I don't know, should I start or?
Yeah, maybe start. Yeah.
All right.
Start.
No, thanks. Look, the question is quite a good question that you're asking, because we do need short-term interventions. But when we look at the short-term interventions, we also need to look at the profile of our young people. There are those who are job seekers that are skilled, that you might find that they are skilled in engineering, some are skilled in various fields. For us to be able to absorb some of those people, we would have to look into sectors that are more, labor-intensive sectors. There's sectors that are more service-orientated, where young people would also get preference or experience in. But where I think we can absorb young people in the short term is definitely in the space of the vocational space. That is your artisan training space. That is a space where we look at also people that can provide practical solutions. For example, let me bring this to your attention. There's a new multi-billion rand gas project that is taking place in Virginia that is led by Renegen, which is also a potential catalyst for economic growth in the province. Now, for us to be able to absorb young people in the short term in that kind of a project, if we were to say we're advertising tomorrow, we would need people that have expertise, not only in terms of, the process of drilling and management of gas, but practical things. For example, in a mining operation, you do need people that are quite skilled in terms of managing operations. You do need people that are skilled in HR management. You do need people that can offer security solutions. There's also value chains within the mining sector, because apart from being able to offer all those things, there's also the delivery of PPEs that is necessary. And also, if you want to move to more specialized kind of things, we need people such as people that are boiler makers, people that are able to work as artisans that will maintain those facilities. If the facilities need painting, the facilities need to be set up, and the regular maintenance projects and all those kinds of. So if you look at the broader nexus of that kind of an operation that is now being rolled out in the province, the kind of skills that you would need are people that have artisanal skills. Now, when it comes to artisanal skills, there are those who are qualified, that are already existing, and there are those who have been trained but do not necessarily hold formalized qualifications. Now, that is a gap in that particular sector that our government is beginning to look into, because it has already been persistently been a case to say, if you are saying that young people are unemployed in South Africa, what is it that they can do? What skills can they offer? If there's unemployed graduates in South Africa, what are they graduated in, or what certificates do they hold, or what skills have they been trained in from their various institutions? So with projects such as those natures, we'll be able to look at specific sectoral needs, and that's where you can bring in the artisan skills, which in the short term for me is quite a good economic driver, because if you look at the bulk of our young people, many of them might have gone to university, but many of them still do not have access to university, owing to a number of factors. Others have never been to university, others have had to drop out due to finances and other manner of related matters. Others, for example, all right.
You will not stop talking unless you Honorable Khakhau.
Thank you, Thamsanqa. You know, the one thing I love about Phiwe is he can philosophize as much as he can. Beautiful. But his beautiful picture does not translate to the reality. The implementation rests within his deployment house, and they've been failing to do so. The truth is this, right? So, one, let's deal with the agricultural sector. And my issue here is I want us to have honest conversations. So as much as, yes, climate change has impacted the flow of agriculture in South Africa, the truth is, in the Free State, the main reason why agriculture is not performing optimally is, one, you have poor support from government itself. The STIA itself and the Department of Agriculture have long since failed to know how it is that they're supposed to develop this sector, how they're supposed to give support to farmers, and how they're supposed to maintain whatever resource allocation that is necessary for that sector. So that's problem number one. Problem number two that we have is, again, a failure of government to ensure that the infrastructure that you're talking about, that should be developed, that should be maintained, that is already there. It is done so in a correct manner. Year after year, when Thamsanqa, we pass budgets in this province, budgets that are available, millions of rands. Nobody ever sees the road networks between our farming communities are a problem. To date, farmers themselves are supposed to fill potholes themselves. They are supposed to use their money to make sure they're able to
also,
not
isn't that
only,
also your role as MPs, oversight role to see that the budgets that you guys pass,
but this is why I'm able to tell you this, because of my oversight role. My oversight role tells me that my analysis is this. And therefore, my oversight is only as limited. The outcomes of my oversight can only be as successful as the ANC's willingness and ability to give effect to the advices that we're getting on the ground. And they've been failing to do so. But as I was saying, Thamsanqa, currently, farmers are having to use their own money to fill potholes that are impeding their ability to, one, get the necessary produce from market to help themselves with their farms, and afterwards also take the same produce back to market, right? The same farmers are having to use their own money to the borehole system, they have water available within their farms because government has failed to ensure that this works properly. So in between farmers' ability to farm properly, to increase their output, but also to employ more people to work in their farms, they have to fill in the gap and the role of government, a government that is incapable and that is failing. That costs money to the farming communities themselves. Currently, we also have a problem of land that rests in. Wait, you must be fair in your approach. And then you must treat all animals must be equal. What happens on the left
they're certainly most equal right now. Yes.
So what I'm saying is this, right? We have land that currently is available, state-owned land, in the hands of the municipality, in the hands of the province, that is supposed to be released and given to young people who are interested in investing in agriculture, that is being withheld by the ANC government because some of the people that want access to this land are not card-carrying members of the ANC, or they're not cadres, and therefore there's no councillor or no politician that's going to be able to reap rewards. So these are things that hamper and stagnate the ability of the sector itself to expand, to not only be able to give more products available for consumers, but to create jobs, which is what we need because of the stifling of political connections. The second problem that we have to the mining sector that he spoke about, Phiwe, is that we have a problem of lawlessness when it comes to our mining sectors. Kahara Machabeng, Velgo itself. The mining community, minerals that have been available and that could have been used or can still be used to form part of the formal economy are minerals that are being used by themselves, cadres again, politically connected people that are working with illegal migrants and illegal job contributors. We can't even say they're job contributors because they're not even accounted for formally in the economy. So if the state did its job properly, and this is a national competence problem, by ensuring, one, we have a police force that does its job and that is not corrupted, we wouldn't have a problem of these zamazamas. Again, if the ANC knew to be selfless in their jobs and not tried to chow at every opportunity they had, we wouldn't have a problem. The problem is, yes, political plundering. And we've seen this even outside of Machabeng, where Phiwe and I come from. In the Jachasfontein itself, the tailing Demi Ele Zimbato itself, how it was captured by another ANC elite led by Ntatama Khashule and his cronies. That is the reason why people are unable to reap rewards properly within the sector. Now let's speak about the tourism sector again that he spoke about. The tourism sector Yakahara Free State is being plundered by red tape and state control. So our tourism industry in the Free State is controlled by the government itself. You have Kharib Dam, you have Naval Hill, and you have Al Dam, which are high destinations, high tourism destinations, or high tourism attractions spots that are currently being governed by the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure, that is unable to develop relevant, attractive, and useful infrastructure, but are also unable to maintain the existing infrastructure that they have. So that's why it is not attractive. Because everybody keeps asking the question, no, but these are not exciting, these are not attractive. And it does not speak to the fact Free State, but it speaks to maintenance. It speaks to a labor force that understands tourism and knows how to work it, and that is a skilled workforce. Currently, what we have, unfortunately, is a tourism sector that is governed by cadres that do not know what their job is, that are only occupying the jobs that they're occupying because they are connected to somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who's a card-carrying member of the ANC. So going back to the solution here, Abdi Thamsanqa, if ever we are going to solve the problem, because taba tse ke buang ka tsona kaofela are not long-term solutions. These are solutions that can be implemented immediately. If you are going to get services right, getting the right people to do the right job, people that are fit for purpose, that's something that can be done now. There's nothing that is stopping the current government from implementing what we are already implementing in the Western Cape. And this is our ability to create jobs is seen and not only our audit outcomes, but it is also seen in Statistics SA's own report to say, currently, between Q1 and Q2 of this year alone, the Free State lost 59,000 jobs. In the same country, the Western Cape was able to create 54,000 jobs. In the same country, this is post-COVID. How exciting is I think? What happened there is that the relationship between the Western Cape government and the private sector has worked well enough to produce the outcomes that we have. The Free State government, instead, it is choosing to not invest in the necessary infrastructure and relationships to create jobs. Instead, they are focusing on cadre deployment. They're focusing on on plundering as much money as possible, and at the receiving end of the poor results are young people Bakahara Free State who are hopeless, who are waiting for a government that will one day care about them, that will give them an opportunity to not only put food on the table, but create something meaningful. Karabo,
you sound just like Phiwe. You also can't stop talking. But I heard you, and there's about 5 minutes left before I think Phiwe goes into a meeting, and I think I just want to give you two more opportunities to give your concluding remarks around what because what a lot what Karabo has said sounds like sounds like despair, hopelessness. And I think that is hopelessness, which is shared by a lot of us, by the way. But we need to give young people hope in the Free State. What are we going to do? Maybe we should carry this conversation another time, but definitely, there is a lot that can be spoken about. Maybe let's schedule it very soon. That sort of conversation. So we speak more to the solutions, and maybe people will have an opportunity to also put an ANC background, so that he is more represented, because I think he looks he looks alone. But let's give you one more opportunity, Phiwe, to tell us what are your responses to what Karabo is saying, or what are you proposing solutions to the despair that young people are feeling on the ground right now?
No, thanks, Pratami. Let's just quickly dispel a few of these arguments that Honorable Khakhau brought forward here. Now, on the question of the Western Cape, it is quite well known that the kind of statistics that they're reporting about are not really in sectors that are quite beneficial or economic driving sectors. If you look at the broader scope of the statistics that they are revealing there of the Western Cape, you will find that all that job growth is mainly concentrated in the urban metro. South Africa is not only concentrated in metros, but we also have rural parts. Now, the Western Cape, if you look at the stats, if you break them down, in rural parts where there's a lot of, where there's especially no activity in smaller municipalities, you'll find that the picture is completely different. What the DA is focusing is only in Cape Town, in the urban center in which they're governing in. If you, for example, just look in the township, just outside of the city center, you'll find that there's quite high levels of unemployment, unmanageable violence, and even the policing there that is quite awful and it's quite porous. The statistics that speak to this, for example, if you look at the townships if you look at the unemployment in the townships of Langa and Khayelitsha, you'll find that it soars way above what the numbers that they're giving forth. And if we also look at the sectors in which they are claiming that there's been jobs that have been created, you'll find that most of those jobs are not really dedicated towards young South Africans, We know that they have a very strong hospitality sector where there's a lot of foreign nationals that are being employed as opposed to South Africans. And the reason why they're enabling this to happen is because they're complaining about the labor laws of South Africa that do not permit for the discrimination and exploitation of South Africans. Now, if you drill down strongly into what is being said about the Western Cape, you'll find that there's not really much that is happening. Now, let's move on to the next fallacy that she came up with on the issue of zamazamas. Now, when it comes to mining in South Africa, Pratan, we all know that all mining companies have mining licenses that they're given. We have a problem, yes, of zamazamas. And the problem has arisen precisely because the mining companies that are responsible, that have those mining licenses, are not playing their role or their responsibility in terms of ensuring that mining shafts that have been closed are secured and they are not susceptible to being exploited by individuals that do illegal mining activities. When mining houses aren't able to fulfill that obligation, they then throw that obligation onto the state as if the policing of the state is weak. Because when mining operations are continuing, mining houses are the ones that are supposed to employ security personnel that will protect and guard the property in which they're operating. It's part of the agreement, the licenses and the obligations that are there. So part of the problem that we have when it comes to zamazamas is that most of these mining shafts that have been closed down are not being guarded and are not secured. Now, the obligation of the state, I believe, in terms of the police service, we cannot want to overburden the National Police Service because their role is community policing. Beyond community policing, they can't go and police privately owned mining, shafts or mining companies that have an obligation to do that. So that is quite unfair. And in terms of the allegations that she's making, that there are some ANC leaders that are that are colluding with zamazamas, I think that is a very serious allegation that needs to be taken to where it should belong. And I've not seen the DA taking any action with regards to that. Nobody has opened the case alleging that so-and-so is colluding with illegal miners. So as long as we don't have tangible proof and that is not been there and there's no investigation that speaks to that, I think that we should not treat that as a point that should stand in this kind of discussion. Now let's get back into the issue of agriculture. And this is a very, very also precarious point. Number one, the agricultural sector, when you analyze the agricultural sector, the participation in that sector, largely, when you check it, it's still skewed in terms of participation, particularly that of Black people, especially in the commercial agricultural sector. Now, our government has the obligation to transform the sector. And these are some of the terms on which our government approaches these farm owners, to say that farm owners, we notice that you're running an operation, but your operation is not really inclusive. It does not allow Black people to be able to participate in that. It does not allow workers to be co-owners or hold shares in that particular company. Secondly, the treatment that they give to their workers as well. So our government cannot give grants unconditionally without considering some of those things, because our constitution enjoins our government to be able to create an environment that respects human rights, an environment in which workers who are working in the factory floor are entitled to certain rights and are also paid according to a certain minimum wage. Now, when our government finds a situation where most of these owners of these farms are not in compliance with that, then therefore it withdraws the grant and does not give the kind of support that is required, because these farm owners are not supporting the national transformation objectives of this particular country. In terms of support for farmers, there's quite significant amount of support that has been offered for farmers by the Department of Agriculture, particularly here in the Free State. I would advise Honorable Khakhau to also look into how much was spent to support farmers during the drought that had happened here in the Free State. Currently, there's a couple of farms that have been affected just here outside Brantford that were affected by a fire. Farmers lost livestock there. The Department of Agriculture has intervened and has made a commitment in that regard. So there's ample support for farmers. There's also, in addition, support for emerging young Black farmers in the agro-processing space. If Honorable Khakhau was in the province in the June month, she would have observed and had the report from Honorable Saki Mukwena, who was tabling a report on the participation of young Black farmers in the agricultural space. There's even donations that were made of tractors and seed implements to assist young Black farmers to be able to work in that agricultural space. So I think that the problem in the main if I can just take you into confidence with regards to this, is that our agricultural sector, it has a problem of the fact that participation of young people is low, and the participation right now and even the ownership within the commercial agricultural sector is white dominated. And if you look at the profile or the ages of those white-owned farmers, you find that majority of them are aging. So we have a problem of where there's not enough young people that are getting into the space, and yet we've got the current people that are called in the commercial sector that are aging. So we are trying to redress that kind of a situation, but you cannot redress it without taking into account objectives of nation building and transformation of the sector. Because at the end of the day, we all know that the sector is white dominated and patterns of ownership are quite skewed. Now, on infrastructure maintenance, let me just bring something to Honorable Khakhau's attention, because I noticed that she's been out of the province quite a while, and there have been certain developments that we just need to bring her up to speed with. Let's look at, for example, there's planned infrastructure investment to the tune of 5 billion rands that's going to come here into the Free State. Now, 58% of that budget, which is 2.9 billion, is going to go towards the building of human settlements. That is what is known as RDP buildings. Apart from that, the rest of the amount that has been left, there's planned infrastructure projects that are coming in this financial year. In Mangaung, 29% of there's 20% going to Thabo Mfutsanyana. There's 18% that's going to be going to Lejol Putswa. There's 11% that's going to Fezli Dadi. All of these infrastructure projects are there to support some of the plans that have been contained in the Free State Growth Development Strategy that was tabled by the new exco of the province. Now,
but Phiwe, can you hear me?
Yes.
No,
yes.
I want you to continue, but I want you to take you back just to this thing about the building of RDP houses and its potential to create jobs for potentially young people. And I do think those will be temporary jobs, given the fact that when you start a project, it's got a timeline to be completed. But another important thing in terms of economic development and growth and opportunities for such. What is this? What is the Department of Public Works going to do about the fact that this tender will be given to one contractor, one main contractor who will do everything? Like this big cake will not be shared amongst the many young business people in the Free State or any other business people in the Free State, but one contractor will be appointed to do the work.
Unfortunately, the department that I'm employed at, which is the Department of Public Works, does not have a mandate of building human settlements. There's a Department of Human Settlements that has that responsibility. And I believe that you had the interview with the MEC, and the MEC did provide an account with regards to that. So the department you're referring to, which is Public Works, does not have that mandate. However, I can elaborate on some of the interventions that the Department of Public Works is currently doing. The Department of Public Works has even a partnership with Motheo TVET College, where there's an apprenticeship for young people that are bricklayers. Now, this is part of the artisanal programs that I spoke about that have the potential of absorbing young people in the medium term. There's a total of about 100 young people that have been taken in for this financial year that are going to be beneficiaries of that program. Mind you, when these young people go for the experiential learning, they're also going to be receiving stipends through our SETAs, which is the construction SETA and the services SETA. Now, these are some of the partnerships that one particular department that is doing, which is the Department of Public Works, in driving and ensuring that it meets this obligation of ensuring that there's jobs that are labor intensive, but also require artisanal skills. But we cannot be able to absorb these young people into these kinds of jobs when there are no projects that are taking place. Hence, the need for an infrastructure investment. And this is what I was speaking to when I referred to the amount of money that has been invested in infrastructure projects to ensure that we are able to absorb young people. The point that you made about these jobs not being permanent jobs, it is true. However, the rationale here is that once you empower young people with artisanal skills, they are able to also go into other sectors or also develop their own businesses. As you would know, there's a need for bricklaying everywhere in this country. Everybody is building. There's a need for plumbers, because the plumbing system of government buildings, of each and every building, even our household, is very much needed. There's a need for technicians that can operate air conditioners, for example. There's a need for painters. There's a need for people that are boiler makers. So those are the artisanal skills that I was speaking about, where the focus is currently in terms of absorbing young people beyond the profile of young people that existed, that hold formal qualifications, that would want to be absorbed into government or in other services sectors. So insofar as that is concerned, I do not think that the picture that is being painted by Honorable Khakhau, that of doom and gloom, is a picture that we must all take as the gospel truth. It is unfortunate that as the Democratic Alliance is not playing its role in terms of its oversight responsibility. I mean, she's a member of parliament. She has an oversight responsibility. She has the privilege, or she has the ability to take action against people whom she believes that are not really not taking instructions to correct certain things that are being done. I believe that in her oversight visits, she does make note of all of these things. But her obligation is also, as a member of parliament who's serving this country, who takes an oath, is to also hold those that have a responsibility to serve the nation to account, and not to come and spin and play politics with regards to this and use it as an electioneering tool, whereas it's her obligation to assist the nation. It is really unfortunate that we have organizations that do not understand what is their role as opposition parties when it comes to their relationship with those that the unfortunate part is that there's a continuous cycle.
No, Phiwe, this is why we're not progressing, because we have young people like yourself that are defending the defenseless.
Chair, can you intervene? I think Honorable Khakhau has been triggered here, but never mind. It's the truth. It always triggers.
I actually want to give to Honorable Khakhau to respond to some of the things, but to help us move forward. Around what is it that we can in our own corners elsewhere, what we can talk to young people and say are opportunities that they can take up, especially in the enterprise development sector, where they don't have to wait for government to give them a tender, or to give them his job. What is it that they can do for themselves in the meantime, while we're waiting for these big interventions that the government and possibly maybe the private sector can give us opportunities. Honorable Khakhau?
Before I do so, also up to Thamsanqa, if people are going to lie, they at least must lie about not a matter of public record. Phiwe is a lazy liar, and the reason why I say this is because part of the reason why we are not progressing as South Africa is because we have young people such as himself defending the defenseless. There is absolutely nothing wrong with being honest to say status quo is currently not serving young people. Because if status quo was serving young people, we wouldn't be having the conversation we are having now about the number of young people who are unemployed. Having no opportunity to put food on the table for themselves and their families. So the truth here is the first clarification that I need to do, because it would be a disservice for you to not afford me an opportunity to clarify contradictions when you're auditing. Number one, the chief beneficiaries of job creation in the Western Cape are Black and colored workforce. Young, Black, and colored in the Western Cape. Majority of the participants in the economy kahara Cape Town come from Yolanga, they come from your Guguletu, they come from all the other townships that exist within your Mitchell's Plain. So it's a lie completely to say, Hori, the jobs are created for white people, when white people are not even the majority of the workforce within the Western Cape and the city of Cape Town. So that's lie number one. So do your research better. Number two, when we speak of the rural economy that exists within the Western Cape, it is also a lie to say the jobs are not created there, because the most active and vibrant farm and agricultural sector, you find it in the Western Cape with our winelands. And the workers within our winelands are not your Jan Pirvirt, are your Karabo and your Phiwe who work there, who are able to put food on the table. So perhaps the conversation you want to have is not that Black people and colored people don't have jobs in the Western Cape or in South Africa. Perhaps the conversation you want to have is who has the power to employ who. That's the conversation. So don't lie and skew it differently. The second thing that we need to have a conversation about here, when Abuti, is that so with the collaborations that the Free State government is having with these development agencies that are creating jobs and contractors, the fundamental problem here is, and this is why this never really translates to anything that is tangible and sustainable. We have a lot of commitments that this government has been doing for years. They commit, they set up money, it's available. But the contractors that are given the responsibility to give effect to these commitments are incapable. And the reason why these contractors are incapable is because they are chosen to give loopholes for plundering of state funds. So they don't choose the best people to do the job. They choose the best people to best siphon money out in forms of kickbacks to cadres. And if that were to stop, if we were to have a merit-based appointment of contractors in the Free State in terms of development of infrastructure, then there wouldn't be a need for us to constantly have to go back to fix problems like roads that were done 2 years ago that suddenly need maintenance again now because the quality of the products that were used there were of poor quality. But then again, I go back to how do young people then empower themselves? Number one, you said I can't election year and I can't campaign, but the truth is we need a change of government. That's number one, right? So we can't have status quo prevailing because the current lot of government is out of depth. They don't know what they're doing and the current statistics show themselves. And so you need a government that knows what it's doing, that gets the basics right? So how do you get the basics right? One, you ensure that there is basic provision of basic services such as water and electricity. The current load shedding crisis is part of the reason why the economy is contracting at a rapid pace that we see right now. In comparison to 2019 to 2023, load shedding in South Africa has increased by over 670%. Over 670% of increase in load shedding from 2019 to 2024. So when we speak of solutions that are specific to the Free State, we also can't also treat the Free State as an island within South Africa. So nationally, the problem is that you need to fix the load shedding problem. And we know that that does not come with Ndata Ramokgopa, who himself does not know where to start. You don't start by creating a new minister of electricity to solve the problem. You do so by dissolving Eskom itself as an entity because it has shown that it does not work. We need independent power producers who are going to be able to feed back into the grid successfully, as we are seeing being done in the DA-led city of Cape Town, the best governed metro in South Africa that the ANC has failed to do, and in the Western Cape, the best governed province in South Africa that the ANC has failed to do here in the Free State. The other thing that we need to do is to cut red tape. Thamsanqa. The current red tape that exists within the private sector caused by the ANC government is part of why the private sectors are able to expand itself and work as well as it can, right? We've shown that we've seen that red tape stifles the ability of businesses to operate properly. And the other thing that we need to do is to ensure that within our municipalities and within our government departments that play a critical role at ensuring we have the kind of environment that we need where businesses can work to get jobs done, that we have a skilled and competent workforce that will ensure we get the results we do. How do I know Ntweki Buang works? Because we have seen it work in the Western Cape. There's nothing that makes the Western Cape government more special than any other government in the Free State. The kind of powers that exists within the provincial competency at the Western Cape is the same power that the Free State government has. The same power that exists within the city of Cape Town is the same power that the Mangaung metropolitan municipality has. But what differentiates the two is one, a fit-for-purpose labor force within these departments that knows what it's doing, an ability to use state funds correctly, and vision and leadership that is not compromised by political plundering or political self-righteousness, but one that actually...
Is the DA still governing in the Midval? And what are the statistics
Hello?
there? Can you hear me?
Oh, and then the truth, if you know, up to some Thamsanqa, this is a very embarrassing question actually, because you would know that the best governed municipality in the entire Gauteng province is the Midvaal. So you have Mfuleni right next door to Midvaal, and then you have Midvaal here. The stark difference, and the Auditor General itself says, the best governed municipality in Gauteng, the entire Gauteng, is Midvaal, right next door to Mfuleni. And so it proves the point that I'm saying to you, it's not that there's anything special about DA governments. It's the political will to get things done and the respect for the South African people who voted for that government to sit in the seats that they sit, to actually make sure that the results of government are tangibly seen on the ground and are beneficial to the people who receive the outcomes of this government. Again, Kitse Huena, how do we know this? How do we know this? We see it works. But most importantly, what young people need to do is this. In the Free State has a think tank that is beautiful and amazing. Young people come up with beautiful solutions all the time to deliver us from this mess, on how to create a tech space relevant to the fourth industrial revolution, and how to modernize the agricultural sector, how to rebuild and revitalize our tourism sector, and how to rebuild and revitalize our mining sector as well. So the solutions are already there, and young people from the Free State themselves are able to deliver them and say, this is what's supposed to happen. But they fall on deaf ears. And I know this because I do my oversight well, Phiwe. Yes, I'm not oblivious to what is happening in the province. I myself am a resident of this province. Now, what differentiates cronies to put food on the table. I don't have to defend the ANC's badness in order to advance my career, and which is part of the problem. So the only solution here is if all of these solutions that young people have been bringing on the table were to land in the ears of the leadership and the hearts of the leadership in a correct manner, we would find ourselves out of this problem. One of those examples is partnerships with the academic institutions that we have right now. So with the agricultural sector,
they already exist. I've shown an example with
partnerships. Hold on. You said I was triggered. You can't fall into my traps. Don't fall into my traps. Do not fall into my trap. So the current, up to Thamsanqa, you can't have a job now as well.
But of course, I understand the why Phiwe is reacting, but it does not have it shouldn't respond while you are speaking. Because definitely did speak about the partnerships between the Free State government and these institutions of higher learning.
Thank you very much.
I think we'll go until 11:30. Is that okay with you guys?
That is fine.
Yeah, that's fine. That's all right.
So as I was saying,
okay, go ahead.
The partnerships. So I am not disputing that there are no partnership that exists. That is not what I'm disputing. What I am disputing is the kind of partnerships that exist and what they translate to. Because for years, the said departments and the government itself have committed to having these kind of partnerships with universities, but you never see where they result to, right? If we knew that these partnerships existed properly, the academic department of agriculture, that unit within the University of the Free State alone, would have seen a greater attraction of students that want to study agriculture, and we would have seen seeing all graduates of agriculture being easily absorbed into the sector in a way that grows the sector's not only its ability to grow in terms of number of farms that are available, but also in the number of employment that has been able to be created within the sector, but also in the number of outputs of products that are being created in the sector, right? So these are the things that we should have been done. Targeted recruitment, as we see in the city of Cape Town, that is currently being done with the partnership that exists between the University of Cape Town and the city of Cape Town. So what I am saying here is there's always more that can be done. And in order for more to be done, there has to be a political will to be there. I can never sit here like Phiwe defend to say what is currently happening in the Free State and the efforts that are currently being done are enough, because they're not enough.
Thank you, Karabo. Phiwe, is more being done? What else can we do? Because that is the important question for today. What can we do to get out of to get young people out of unemployment in the immediate?
Thank you, Pratami. Let's first address something. There's a lot of grandstanding that was done here. To be honest with you,
the back and forth when you guys are taking each other.
No, I'm going to get into it honestly. The 54,000 jobs, let's be clear, these are seasonal jobs. We're not talking permanent jobs here.
You mean we're talking about the Western Cape?
In the Western Cape. This has been clarified quite a number of times. These are seasonal jobs. Number one, these are not jobs that are permanent. Number two, these are not jobs that are sustainable. These are only jobs that are there that create a temporary relief. These are jobs that are seasonal. The jobs that she speaks about in the agricultural sector, the workers, they ask her, how much are those workers being paid? Are they being paid according to the minimum wage? Ask her about how those workers are being accommodated. Is there reasonable accommodation for those workers that work? Ask her about the conditions of workers in those farm areas. Thirdly, ask her about how many times in a year do those workers go out and work, and how many times do they earn a salary? Like I said, the statistics of the Western Cape are nothing but false. They don't paint an accurate picture. The DA complains about the EPWP program of the state. The state never said EPWP program is a job. They call it a job opportunity, which is there for 12 to 18 months. They offer the same thing and they call that a job, and they claim that they've created 54,000 jobs. It can't be. It's a farce. Now, she must also be honest about the kind of jobs that are being created in the tourism sector of the Western Cape and who is being employed there. The story about young people in the townships of Langa, Guguletu, and Khayelitsha being ravished by unemployment and crime and gangsterism, that is not a hoax. If those 54,000 jobs came from there, well, they're definitely doing a very poor job at that. If you go and look at the tourism sector of the Western Cape, you go to restaurants, you go to guest houses, you'll find that a lot of the young people that are employed in that sector are young people that are foreigners, that are undocumented, and they don't get protection from our labor rights regime. That is the kind of exploitation that is being permitted in the Western Cape right now. And that is what is being claimed as jobs that are being created. Let's address this issue of investment. We all know that in the Western Cape, some of the most wealthiest individuals in South Africa reside in the Western Cape, and they happen to benefit out of all of that. Why is it that they are failing to ensure that those people have a greater social responsibility to also invest and assist other provinces towards achieving similar objectives? For example, how is it that we do not get the same kind of support that the Western Cape enjoys in the Free State, whereas the Free State is also an agricultural sector producing province? The Free State, by the way, in terms of agricultural produce, in certain produces like maize and crops, produces way more than the Western Cape, for example. But you don't find those people providing a solution because there's a political agenda that is linked to that. I will not get into the discussions or debate about monopoly capital existing in that space. I just want to illustrate by that. Now, let's get back to the point that you asked me. I just wanted to clear out those ones. Now, let's discuss this. What is there for young people? Number one, the situation as it is for young people in the province is quite dire. Number two, in as much as the situation is dire, young people should know that their focus should be on attaining skills. And the kind of skills they must attain, they need to focus on particularly relevant institutions, because it's pointless to skill young people, whereas their skills are not going to be relevant for the job market. Now, the job market right now has a huge, huge demand for artisanal skills. I'm saying this in particular because this is the drive that you need to embark on. If we are going to push infrastructure projects, we need to have people that have practical skills, such as bricklayers. We need to have practical skills of people that can operate our TLB machines, that can operate tipper trucks, that are able to be part of the entire value chain of the infrastructure or the built environment. Those are the skills we need to focus on. On top of that, there's also a sector that is quite busy on a daily basis. And this is also a sector that deals with issues of maintenance. As I alluded to you, each and every day in this country, or even in Bloemfontein, or even in wherever you are located, there is somebody that has an office that has an air conditioner. When you look at the profile of all of these companies that repair air conditioners, you'll find that it's only 5 companies that are getting business. And when you check the profile and the ownership of those companies, it's largely white-owned companies. We don't have enough young people that can participate in that space. But for you to participate in that space as a young person, you need to acquire that skill of being able to operate an air conditioner, not only to operate it, but to also maintain it as well. So we need also to empower young people, not only with the skills to do the job, but to also empower them with business skills that enable them to be able to run and drive sustainable businesses. You can look at plumbers. You can look at there's quite a number. Sorry?
For me, that sounds like a very positive and very upbeat closing remark, because like I think we've just gone over the 1 hour mark, but that is quite impressive. And just to what you were just saying now, maybe in the next session when we meet again, because there is quite an emphasis on artisanal skills being produced by Phiwe colleges as well as other institutes of higher learning. I think the next time let's look at the output in terms of numbers from these institutions of higher learning in terms of artisanal skills, and the sort of absorption into the job market in terms of the people who have been outputted by the colleges. I think that will help to see whether or not we're driving these young people into these colleges to get these artisanal skills, and at the end of the day, are they being absorbed into this? Karabo, I want to give you 1 more minute before we close, because Phiwe, I think, has given his his closing remark, and we'll say goodbye until we meet again in the next session, which we must have for both of you. Karabo?
Thank you, Thamsanqa. I want to reiterate.
Don't do it for more than 60 seconds, please.
Well, you just
go ahead.
About 5 seconds of my 60 seconds. So I want to say this, right? I think what we can all agree on this platform, and from everybody that's viewing wherever they're viewing, is that the current situation is problematic. It cannot be that young people's dreams are being taken away from them, because no young person wakes up excited to sit and idle at home and not have an opportunity to build something meaningful out of their lives, right? And so it rests upon every South African, actually every Free Stater, to make sure that we contribute towards a life where young people are able to benefit from the economy in a way that is sustainable for all young people. So this speaks to living in a Free State where you don't have 59,000 jobs lost between Q1 and Q2 alone, when people are focusing on the Western Cape that has been able at least to give people an opportunity to put food on the table. So I want to close by saying this. It cannot be that as young people in the Free State, we ourselves become the goalkeepers of our own success by defending defenseless cadres that are currently unable to do their job. Leaders, they're not fit for purpose. They're incompetent. They don't know what they're doing. They are out of their depth. And the proof is in the pudding. It's in the status quo. It's in those young people who have resorted to a life of crime just so they can be able to at least all right? So what's standing between us and our success as young people is singing to guitars of people that are not interested in solving our problems, that are not interested in shaping a better tomorrow for ourselves, but that are only interested in plundering state funds and not using them well. So that's what I want to say. And it's unfortunate that this platform, you've said, does not afford me an opportunity to electioneer, because politics is interested in young people just as much as young people should be interested in politics, because your inability to put food on the table is political. Your inability to drive a BMW kahara Free State as a young person, when young people kahara langa living their best lives, when they are able to go shop at a V&A waterfront, but bana ba Free State ka Thabong ha ba kgone
we will do that certainly very soon.
It's political.
We will do that very soon.
But that's it.
We are in that election year, almost we're there. So we will get those opportunities to full electioneering. We'll give you those opportunities. I see that you are hungry for it. But thank you very much, Honorable Khakhau and Phiwe Mathe. This has been very insightful and very informative. I think let's do it again very soon. If we can do it sometime in the next week again, because I think there is more that we can gain, from these conversations as young people. Because I think I've sensed a lot of information that you wanted to give, but we couldn't allow you the space to give from both of you. So let's do it better next time. But thank you very much. We've been quite informed. Next time. Yes.